This was my identity.
Nobody talks about how freaking hard it is to be a dentist. What most people talk about is how this affects the patient. What nobody talks about is how this affects us. Dentistry is ready for this. Now is really the time. Welcome to Wellness in Dentistry. Today we're going to be talking about the mental toll of perfectionism and how this really impacts a lot of dental professionals, how it impacted me, how it's impacted Martin in the past too. So I am Dr. Kyle Stanley. I'm a dentist, tech entrepreneur, speaker, and a researcher. And I'm joined by your co-host, Dr. Martin Mendelson. Martin is a disabled dentist, coach, speaker, and author. And his first book, One Move Makes All the Difference, is available for pre-order right now wherever books are sold. Together, Martin and I have helped thousands of dental professionals pursue wellness in dentistry, and we're excited to take on this topic today of perfectionism in dentistry. Martin, hello.
Hello. Yeah, one of my favorite topics and one of the banes of our existence is dentistry.
Yeah, we are analytical, we measure in microns, and I think that the negative thing that comes out of this is that we forget that we're still human,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, what have you seen with perfectionism in dentistry?
Well, it's a cancer that can really eat at you, and let's be clear. Let's just say this at the outset. There's a difference between perfection and clinically acceptable. We're not talking about substandard care. We're talking about beating yourself up to achieve some level of perfection, to be redundant, that may or may not be achievable. So let's just put that out right there
Yeah,
before we start.
yeah,
Yeah. So it starts in dental school. Let's call it what it is. And the difference between a good grade and a quote failing grade can be a tenth of a millimeter,
yeah,
uh, which
literally.
which
This was
is
supposed to be 1.3 and it's 1.2.
yeah, exactly. And look, to teach minimum level of competence, some of that is important, some of that is needed. Some of us had, shall we say, better experiences with that educational process than others. But at the end of the day, particularly in the age of social media, we beat ourselves up because nothing's ever good enough, right?
Yeah, it's like, are your margins ever closed enough on a crown for you?
Yeah.
Because we know an acceptable margin, like a really good margin, is like 35 microns.
Hmm.
Okay? Now, 35 microns means there's a gap.
Right. Exactly.
Right? It may not be visible,
Right.
but there's a gap.
Right.
And damn, I wanted 0 microns.
Yeah.
I wanted 10 microns,
Yeah.
35 is too big for me. And it's like, at what point can you actually be proud of yourself? And this was something that I first heard talked about with Adam Grant,
Hmm.
who, I know you're a fan of too. And
Hmm.
Adam Grant talks about, he was a diver. And I think he dove at a high level too. I think he dove in
Hmm.
college.
Hmm.
And he was talking about the Olympic judging rule book, which, we think about the Olympic athletes, like these are the best of the best, right? When
Yeah.
you think of an Olympic diver, they're the best divers in the world from each
Hmm.
country.
Hmm.
And what he says is a 10 isn't for perfection, it's for excellence.
Yeah.
Even a flawed dive can get a 10.
Hmm.
You did a dive that was up to the highest possible standards
Yeah.
humans can achieve.
Yeah.
But there's still a gap between that dive and perfection.
Yes.
So he says that dive was good enough to be excellent. Perfection is really with 0 flaws. Excellence is an extremely high standard that is
Hmm.
attainable for me. That
Absolutely.
gets me to a level I can be proud of, or other people can be proud of.
Hmm.
So let's talk about excellence and when we can be proud of ourselves.
Yeah, I think if we're doing the best we can with the skills we have at the time, that right there is success in my book because we've all been trained to a certain level. We're all, this is probably the wrong word, but accredited. blessed, if you will, whatever. We all have licenses. And so doing the best you can with the skills you have at the time, and of course doing so with the intention of healing, not harming, that's a good day in the office, in my humble opinion. And I have the benefit of age, I have the benefit of experience. Both Kyle and I, for those listening, if you're unaware, we both have had experiences not only as clinicians, but working in a laboratory, seeing thousands of cases go through our hands. And I can tell you in all candor, every single prep is different from the next one. And somebody may be slightly over tapered or under tapered, et cetera. And within clinical parameters, we're still going to be able to provide an excellent restoration that's going to last for years to come. So this attempt to be perfect can really cause stress, angst, and be injurious to your health on top of all of that as well.
I love that quote, and I think you were the first one that I heard say it, which is, I did the best that I can with the skills that I had at the time,
Yeah.
because we're always growing with our skills.
Mhm.
And this morning, I didn't tell you this, but this morning I was recording a webinar for the London Dental Institute, and I was talking
Mhm.
about implant dentistry. And I was showing an old case of mine that started, I think in, gosh, 2012 or
Mhm.
2013. It was an implant case, and then we have
Mhm.
like an 11-year follow-up. But I showed something that I did that I wouldn't do now. And
Right.
I had to say, at the time, I didn't know that I should have done it a different way. This
Yep.
is what I did, and luckily it turned out okay. We ended up
Yeah.
changing something later, but I don't look back at that now and say, what an idiot. I look back and say, at the time, that was what I thought was the best that
Yeah.
I could be. Now I would do it differently, having the self-awareness and having the new clinical skills that I had learned since then.
Yeah.
And we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace for that too.
Yeah.
Because I even look back on things that I did, in college, or um, how I was as like a boyfriend to
Hmm.
my, college or dental school girlfriends, and things
Yep.
that I did or didn't do. And I have to give myself a little bit of grace. I just didn't have the self-awareness on certain things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't have the skills that I needed.
Mhm. Well, you know what's interesting? You just made me think of something that I didn't even share with you. So, because we talked about this, I'm creating this new lecture from sticky notes to sanity
Yeah.
to
And
help dent.
we did a podcast on this too.
Yeah, we
So
did.
that was what started this whole thing.
We
Yeah.
did. And so I realized that I don't know why I'm not doing a keynote on this. And so I'm actually doing a webinar in a couple months for this. And so here's my point. I was meeting with my slide designer, who I just absolutely love. She has a degree in instructional design. She created all of the body of my current work on purpose so that everything looks the same and has the same philosophies. And she said, this is what I didn't tell you. When we met on, I don't remember what it was, late last week, she says, yeah, I'm probably going to look at one of those older decks and be like, oh, I could do so much different now or
Mm.
better now. So it's not unique to dentistry. It's any profession, any job. We grow, we change. And so isn't it interesting that, she said the same kind of thing, but not talking about dentistry, talking about communication and slide design for teaching purposes, right?
Hmm.
So, let's just all agree that we're all human, and this is part of our journey. And the other thing today, and we've done episodes on this too, that really can get in our way is the comparison to social media, right? And so, Kyle and I both know some pretty heavy hitting dentists in our field, and the level of effort they take to create those images, those photographs, those presentations, those reels, in some cases, isn't realistic for regular practice because you don't have time to take 80,000 versions of the same photo, right?
Yeah.
So we have to understand that as well and stop comparing ourselves. Oh, what's that phrase? Stop comparing your step one to somebody else's step 100, that
Hmm.
kind of thing, right? So that's a huge problem as well, where it's comparison is the thief of joy, particularly when comparison is not done in true comparative sense, in a true comparative sense.
I think
Uh,
one of the things that was hard for me with perfectionism was that my patients, at least I felt my patients expected perfectionism from
yeah,
me.
yeah,
And so one of the ways of not letting perfectionism take over how you think about yourself is by you communicating that to your patients
yeah,
and to your team as well.
totally.
So that if you don't have that pressure from the
Hmm.
patient of performing something perfect, then you don't have the pressure is lifted off of you and
Hmm.
it's easier to remove it from yourself.
Yeah. Well, and also let's remember that blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I'll try that again. Our perfection is not the same as our patients because we're looking at it with an educated eye.
Mm,
And so I think many dentists forget that because we look at our work, we look at somebody else's work, we look at somebody on the street, whatever, and instantly we see their number eight or whatever.
yeah.
The lay public doesn't see that way.
Hmm.
And so I think that's something that we don't often talk about relative to understanding that our level of perfection or perfection to our eye isn't the 99% of the general populace. It just isn't.
Yeah, we definitely have this skewed view. And I think once you get into dental photography and scanning and you can really see
Hmm.
things
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
it's much easier to pick yourself apart.
Yeah.
You
Totally.
know, if your, I don't know, MO composite doesn't
Hmm.
look incredible on that upper second molar,
Yeah.
it may not matter that much. Now, of
Yeah.
course, what matters that they don't have sensitivity. The
Yep.
contact is good, the
Yep.
occlusion is good, there's no interferences. You know, you did it hopefully with good isolation and there's no bacterial infiltration. You have good bond strength. Like Martin and I are
Basic.
very, very big on high quality dentistry,
Yeah.
but we have to know that we are humans.
Yeah. Totally.
And there's going to be some things we excel at, there's going to be some things that we're poor at, but we have to give ourselves grace in this.
Hmm. Absolutely. You
Have
know,
you
it's
seen that when like scanning really came out and when you see big, amazing photographs that you start to pick yourself apart more?
Yes, but it also was a benefit. I think I've told you this story before, but when I was working at the lab, and this was almost 20, it was 20 years ago. I was at a study club meeting and one of the docs came up and he was kind of a joker anyway, and he was a friend, and he was like, "Oh, at the time it was really only CEREC that was really
Yeah.
out there." And he goes, "Oh, I bet you all at the lab hate it when somebody gets a CEREC machine." And I look at him, I said, "Why do you think that is?" And he goes, "Oh, well, because, we end up producing all of our own units." And I looked at him and I said, "Actually, we really like it." Because what we've seen is a couple things. First of all, yes, there's a drop in business when they first get it, but then it typically comes back, and it comes back with more comprehensive cases. And guess what? Because you're looking at every prep on a huge monitor instead of at the time on a mirror,
Hmm.
your preps improve
Yeah.
because you see it in a magnified state. So, it's not necessarily it could be a real benefit too, right? So the criticism can be used two different ways, right? It could be used as a method to improve, or it can be used as a method to beat yourself up.
And that I think is what we need to get a hold of because I believe most dentists I know are lifelong learners.
Yes.
And I think that's just because it was kind of, pun intended, drilled into us
Hmm.
in our 8+ years of
Sure.
school after
Sure.
high school, right? So in college, we had to do well. In dental school, we had to do well. If you went to residency or GPR or specialty, you had to do well. And then because we have quote unquote continue education,
Hmm.
you have to do like in California, it's 25 units every no,
Yep.
25 units every year, so 50 units every 2 years. You're doing 50 education units. I mean, I don't know a lot of other professions that are doing that much continued education outside of medicine.
Actually, ironically enough, yes, I do know of one.
Really? Oh,
So,
tell me.
I just got my insurance license in the state of
Mm.
Arizona because I'm very passionate about how disability insurance saved my life. I have to take, now that I have my license, I have to do 48 hours every 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
be interested to know like, are plumbers doing this? Are contractors
Fair.
doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are heating and cooling people
Yep.
doing this? Are attorneys?
Hmm.
Are accountants? I'd be interested. But
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of us are lifelong learners,
Yep.
and this can be a positive and negative thing.
Hmm.
So
No.
if it is focused in the right way, and you and I have seen this, we can get people that finally say, oh my gosh, mental health and personal growth is big for me. They come to our Light Side Live program,
Yep.
they take our online courses, and these people just absolutely kick ass. And they
Hmm.
become lifelong learners on things other than dentistry as well.
Yep.
And they just really, really fly. But
Hmm.
it can also be this lifelong learning gene, let's say, can be made to beat you up
Yeah.
and say,
Totally.
my preps aren't good enough, my veneers aren't good enough, my implants aren't good enough. I need to go digital dentures. I need to do digital smile design. I need to do that, 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 that. And it's really there to make you feel incompetent.
Yeah.
How do you think that we focus that in the right way so that it's more towards the positive and not the negative?
I think part of it, from what I was hearing via interpretation from your statements, was that the individual was still comparing to some third outside party. So what I mean
Yeah,
by that is if the only, I'm sure everybody's heard this phrase before at least once, the only person you're really in competition with is yourself. So if
Mhm.
you can go back and look at your own work and see how you've progressed, I think that's where the healthy element of it comes in, because you're not comparing to other people that might have, for whatever reason, improved better skill sets. If you're looking at yours and you're noticing an improvement, greater efficiency, greater patient comfort, uh, all those kind of, greater healing times, whatever. If you're looking at your own work and you're seeing improvement there, then that to me is a much more healthy way to go than looking at so and so's Instagram feed and the gorgeous veneers they just placed on some celebrity or whatever.
Right. I think one of the best things that my first real big mentor in dentistry, Pascal Magnier, passed on to me and my partner Matt and my practice is taking photos.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, now you can do it with scans too, but being able to go back and say, what did my prep look like on this
Hmm.
tooth?
Yeah.
Because let's say that there is a complication, going back and saying, oh, you know what? I over prepped here, and
Yeah.
that's probably why I didn't have as much retention, or I under prepped, and that's why probably this broke, or that's why there's sensitivity. There's a way of maybe not looking at it as perfectionism, but looking at it as continued growth.
Totally.
I'm trying to think of when I got to that point. I think for me, I was the perfectionist until I went through self-improvement, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so easy to compare ourselves to other people because that's kind of the way our society tends to be engineered, if you will.
Yeah.
It takes a bit of, shall we say, stick-to-itiveness to focus solely on your own progress and block out the rest of the world or whatnot. And I'm certainly not saying you shouldn't be on social media and look at other people's work because you can certainly get ideas that way. But the difference is comparing yours to theirs and then beating yourself up for not executing to the same level, particularly if you're in a different place. You're 10 years out of practice and they're 20, or you're 2 and they're 10, or whatever the situation is.
I remember doing this when I first got out of school. Me and my partner, Matt Najad, we would look at other people that were out 15 years and be like, gosh, they already have their cases look like this. They're driving these
Yeah.
cars, they're living in these houses.
Yeah.
And now it's funny because now that happens with us, with young doctors,
Yeah.
young
Totally.
doctors. And now we're 15 plus years out and they
Yeah.
come to us and say, like, gosh, you guys did this and you did this and you did this. And some of that is just time. I know that I struggled with that on social media. I wanted to follow people that inspired me to do better, but that also
Hmm.
didn't make me feel incompetent or didn't make me, yeah, feel so incompetent that I beat myself up.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's a hard balance though.
It's a really hard balance, and I think that, like we talked about in other episodes, we actually just recorded one, the last episode that we published about being very careful of universal type statements like, I'm not as good as so and so. Really? Well, you ain't the same person as so and so. So why do you expect to be as good? Or I'm never going to be able to get to that level. Really? Who said that? They're 10 years your senior or whatnot. So watching those globalistic, all encompassing statements can also be really helpful to keep yourself out of that comparison place.
One thing with excellence as a pair compared to perfection is this understanding of being a human, which we
Hmm.
talked about at the beginning of this episode. But I would also say it's understanding that patients actually prefer people
Yeah.
who are more human and less perfect.
Yeah.
So I think as dentists, we have the idea that our patients want us to be perfect. And so we take that on. But
Hmm.
really, there's some research that shows this too, is that people really want the person who is a human. And they really
Hmm.
want the person that is a good communicator, and they
Yep.
want the person that can show their flaws.
Yeah.
Like I know, I was just on a call with a kind of like a little mastermind group that I've done some stuff with through one of my coaches.
Hmm.
And they were saying how posts that have spelling errors sometimes do
Hmm.
better than ones that are perfect.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I know I've told you this story before, but they did this study, and I gotta find the author. I have it written down somewhere. Um, but there was I'm gonna search for it while I'm telling the story. Dr. Richard Weissman, okay, did
Hmm.
this study. And they had a model or an actor, you can call
Hmm.
her, in a mall. And
Hmm.
she was trying to sell this blender. Okay,
Hmm.
so she was having people say, hey, I'm making smoothies, and she'd put all the
Yep.
fruit in and then blend it up, and look at how nice it's blending here. And then she would take it and pour it in the cup and give people the smoothie, and then they would say, wow, that's a really great blender, maybe I should buy that.
Hmm.
Now they did another version where she did the same thing, but as she's pouring the smoothie, she drops the cup and spills it a little bit and goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that. Let me clean this up
Yeah.
for you. And she's cleaning it up and oh man, here's this, and maybe
Yeah.
there's smoothie on the side and whatever. More people bought
Yeah.
when there was a mistake.
Yeah.
And so I think this should inspire we dentists to understand that when you're talking to your patients about complications or the
Hmm.
fact that the crown that comes back the first time may need adjustment,
Hmm.
color change, contact, the
Hmm.
margin may not work. They may think that they don't want that, but what research has showed is that most people do want that human.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even you saying things like, I've done thousands of these, many of them work out great, but sometimes we have some that come off, we have some that are sensitive,
Hmm.
we have some that come back wrong. It actually shows, wow, this person has so much experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I know when I had jaw surgery, and I had jaw surgery with a guy named Robert Relli, who is a very well-known surgeon on the West Coast. I mean, he was the chief of orthodontic surgery at Kaiser for many
Hmm.
years. I mean, he's a big guy. And he was so down to earth and
Hmm.
just like listen, this
Yeah.
this happen. I've done thousands of these cases. Many of them turn out great, but sometimes there's a non-union.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to go in and take out this. Sometimes we have to do revisions.
Mhm.
And I felt more comfortable talking to him
Yeah.
because of him talking about these complications,
Yeah.
because he was human and he wasn't perfect.
Yeah. I actually have had so many of my coaching clients where we're kind of working through kind of a challenging day, or they're retelling rather a challenging day or a challenging procedure. And these are really nice, very transparent people. And so many times they then tell me that, when they check up on the patient that night or the next day or what have you, the patient says to them, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made such a challenge for you." Like it's
Yeah.
it's it's interesting, this humanistic relationship that we can create when we're just being human. Right?
hmm
It's
We
it's
don't want to be a burden to other people, even if
yeah,
we're paying them
yeah,
to do this, right?
yeah. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think with this idea of being human, we need to take the pressure off ourselves that our patients, that we think our patients want us to be perfect
Hmm.
robots
Right.
because they don't.
Right.
And if you do find these patients that do, hopefully you find it out before you work on them.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
these are people that have unrealistic expectations.
Hmm.
Working in the mouth, working in the body, we're in a very unpredictable area that we can't control everything. And these people are having 1,000 meals a year,
Yep.
and we're supposed to make something that is,
Yeah.
indestructible and lasts for the next 75 years or something. It's
Yeah.
it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I commented the other day on Dental Nachos. I'm a sponsor of that group, and uh, Paul Goodman posted like something to the effect of, you know, see to this restoration, and 2 years later it breaks or whatever. Should we replace it for free or whatever? And I just kind of piped up and I was like, our medical colleagues wouldn't. What makes us so special?
Uh-huh.
So it's unbelievable the backflips that we do to try to make things right, and still forget that we're human, and still forget that things happen, and still forget that some things are out of our control, and that's okay. So
Yeah, this idea of perfectionism, as I'm thinking back of what we've talked about this episode, most of it is mindset,
yeah, yeah.
right? There's not a lot of practical changes we can make. It really is an identity and a few
Hmm.
mindset shifts, right?
And it can really stymie your progress, because I also hear all the time in coaching circles, speaking circles, etc. Do you ever hear the phrase "done is better than perfect"?
Yeah.
And so, human beings are human beings. So you have these coaches, these speakers, these consultants that get basically just frozen in place because they refuse to release their website or their course or their next keynote or article because they're so afraid that it's quote unquote not perfect. Well, that's a shame, because now the rest of the people that would want to engage with that material don't get to hear it because we're trying to make it so perfect when, is it going to be absolutely perfect or perfect for you and perfect for your
hmm
skills at the time?
hmm At the time.
Yeah.
At the time, because our
Yeah.
skills change over time.
Amen.
All
Yeah.
right, so how would you summarize what we talked about today? The mental toll of perfectionism in dentistry.
Yeah, I think it's all about striving for excellence, not perfection, striving for doing the best job you can with the skills you had that day. And it's about not comparing to other people, but rather comparing to yourself and seeing, honoring, and honing in on the progress you've already made, or the progress opportunities that you could make moving forward. Because I'm never going to be Kyle Stanley, and Kyle Stanley is never going to be Martin Mendelsohn. So to try to achieve your standard in a lot of ways makes no sense when we talk about it that way, but yet that's what we try to do every day.
Yeah, I see this a lot in the jujitsu community because, in jujitsu or in really a lot of martial arts, there's like a belt system.
Hmm.
And so it's very external. It would be like,
Yeah.
imagine going to Chicago midwinter meeting and everybody wears how
Yeah.
much their practice produces on the
Exactly.
outside, or
Yeah.
how many implants they place that
Yeah.
year. And so
Yeah.
there's kind of this external
Yeah.
success, if you will, that's written on the
Yeah.
outside, oh, that person's just a white belt, or whoa, that person's a black belt, right? And when you talk to the black belts, they always say, you're in this fight against yourself.
Hmm.
It's you
Yeah.
against you, and it's you against how you were when you started.
Hmm.
Because they always say, like, listen, if I'm a black belt speaking, right? If you go to fight me, you're gonna lose. I've been
Hmm.
doing this for 15 years, you've been doing this
Hmm.
for 2 years.
Yep.
You're going to lose. But what if you yourself got in a fight with yourself 2 years ago?
Right. Right.
Who would win?
Right.
And I had someone say this to me, and I would go like, "Oh my God, I would absolutely murder myself 2 years ago because I knew nothing."
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
And so it's comparing yourself to yourself. I love that
Mm.
idea. I think that's a
Yeah.
great way to finish today. So the mental toll of perfectionism in dentistry, it's all about mindset shift, guys. It's about going towards excellence, knowing that you're a human and knowing that your
Mhm.
patients want you to be a human too.
Yep.
If you guys enjoyed this, we would love if you would send this to a colleague. Maybe you've got a colleague that is a little bit of a perfectionist and
Hmm.
they need to hear this. So that would be really great if you could send that to them. And make sure to go to wellnessanddentistry.com. That has all of our episodes on there. It has our link to our YouTube page. You can also see links to mine and Martin's online courses, our in-person courses. If you ever want to come hang out with us, all the information is there. And we'll
Hmm.
see you on the next episode of Wellness and Dentistry.
Thank you.